All right, well, Microvellum University is now back in session. So in the last video, we spent the time to set up a project, going through all the different project wizard settings and the global variables, also updating material and hardware. So when it comes time to drawing these cabinets, everything's ready to go, and it's just a matter of finding what we need inside of the library. So we're still at the beginning part of this series where we're continuing to learn the basics of drafting and bringing products into our drawing. After we add these products, we're going to get into the next thing you'll want to do, and that's using the Microvellum 2D drawing tools to lay out a simple plan, elevation, and section drawing. Now, those can be used to show off what you'll be building for the customer to see exactly what they're going to be getting. Now, I know you're ready to keep learning, so let's go. So we're going to go back into that project that we spent time in setting up, MVU Shop Cabinets job number 5. But before we do that, I just want to show you quickly here. If you've noticed, maybe your AutoCAD ribbon doesn't show all the icons every time you open up Toolbox. So just cycling through it again will change that. I don't know, it kind of frustrates me, so I just wanted to point that out. Anyway, now back into our Microvellum palette. We're going to open up our project tree, and rather than going into the category again, go to that pull-down menu. We can select from our recent projects. A faster way to get into our project we want to work in. So in the last video, we stopped right before creating a new room. So we're going to have to do that here. Let's add our new room, give it a name, open up our template, and now into our drawing. So we're starting off this project, just like pretty much every project that we're going to be working in, we got to draw some walls. So let's go into our room components, get a couple walls drawn in here. Hopefully this is starting to feel comfortable to you now. Place that first point at 0, 0, 0. Make this first wall 12 feet or 144 inches. Then the second wall will make 10 feet or 120 inches. Okay, so that's our layout. Get rid of that dotted polyline again. And yeah, I know we're doing this in most of our videos here, but again, we're just trying to get used to the whole basic process of drafting, since that's most likely the first thing we're going to be working on when we get into the software and start creating some new projects. So after these walls are drawn, let's get those products placed on these walls. And since we've already spent the time setting up our project, we don't have to make too many changes in the prompts. So let's start off with some base cabinets, go into our base 2-door. We're going to use the left anchor point of this product and place it on our wall. Give it a distance of 2 off of that corner. Give it a width. And now into the quantity, we can set our quantity here. Now when we do this, when it first comes out of the library, we're going to get 3 cabinets drawn in. So after it's already inside of your project, changing the quantity inside of your prompts isn't going to draw new products. Now over to the add countertop prompt. Let's check that so we don't have one for each cabinet. Okay, so now we get those 3 cabinets drawn in. Now because we keep unchecking the add countertop prompt inside of the product, I want to show you how we can change that inside of our project. So because that's controlled by one of these global variables, we'll go and find that. And because there are so many variables in here, if you don't know the name, you can go to the Edit tab, select Find Variable. Okay, so the name of the prompt inside of the product is Add Countertop. So let's just type A in here. It does get you a little bit closer since we don't know the entire name, but it takes you to the A's of all the variable names. This one we have Add Countertop Drawing Only, and that's the one we're going to change. Now make sure you don't hit anything inside of this window. Go right to the scroll bar and go down and find that variable name. By doing that, you're going to keep that name highlighted so you can find it easily. Now we're going to uncheck that. Now we can go back into our drawing and start placing some more cabinets. This time we're going to select a drawer bank. So into the base drawer bank cabinet category. Let's see what would work good here. Let's pick on the base 4 drawer. We'll fill this wall with products. Now you do have the option to pick points here since we do have the space to the right side of these cabinets. But we're just going to go distance from the left side of the wall. Double click and pick 2 points. That gives us our distance. And for the right side, we're going to just do the base cabinet depth plus the corner filler width. Change our quantity and into our prompts. Now you can see because that change we made in the global variables, we don't have to worry about the add countertop prompt now in our products. Let's go over to the drawer options tab. The drawer banks work a little bit differently than the base door drawer cabinets. The top drawer front height has a global variable setting, so that's always coming in at a specific height. But with the drawer banks, they're set up a little bit differently. They're equal heights until you go inside of one of these calculators that we have inside of the products. Right click inside of this open space and you can show calculators. Here you have the option to change all your drawer front heights inside of your products. So for this one, we're going to set a specific height for the top drawer front. And then on the next three, we're going to check that equal box, let it calculate, and now it's given us equal drawer front heights for the rest of those drawers. To set two specific heights, you could do that. So you set two of them, your top and maybe your second, and then just hit the equal for the next two, calculate, and it does the work for you. And now back into the prompts page under the drawer options. Here you can now see all the different options for your drawer boxes. Some are grayed out, so you would need to go into the edit drawer box sizes to unlock those prompts so you can make some changes. And if that's something that you're seeing in your prompts, if it's grayed out or it's been dimmed, it just means that it's being driven by another prompt, whether inside of your product or maybe at the project level. Let's change our view and take a better look at these cabinets. Now, because we are using a grain material, we have our material set to grain. We have that indicator on our cabinets. So we have our vertical grain direction on our doors, and we also have it on our drawer fronts. Now, I want to change that. That's going to be something we do inside of the project, not at each cabinet. So go into our project properties, and here's how we change our drawer front grain direction. Going into the project wizard, the drawer front grain direction, changing that from length to width. And you also can do that to your doors and your other finished faces, your sides, or even your back if that's exposed. And then save and close, get back into our drawing, redraw our two drawer banks, and let's double check to make sure that worked. Want to see that grain indicator change. It's good seeing that here in our drawing. It gives you a little peace of mind that you do have Toolbox, making sure that things are going to get optimized the right way once it gets sent out to the shop. And it's not like we're only going to be able to check it out here, right? And once we get closer to creating a cut list, we can still take a look and make sure everything is being nested just right. So now going back into a top view, get another cabinet drawn. This time we're going to go on the adjacent wall with the tall cabinet, selecting our tall one door, and using its right anchor point to place on that wall. Moving it in 1 inch, give it a new width. See that the height and the depth, everything else is coming in from the project wizard. Make some other changes here. Show the construction options. That's also something that we can change inside of our global variables. And something I want to change here with this tall cabinet is how the back is being constructed. Currently, it's only capturing the two sides. I'm going to change that to a fully captured back to where it captures both sides and the top and bottom, similar to an upper cabinet, or at least the way that I would build my upper cabinets. I don't know. Everybody's a little bit different. But you can change that here at the local level. You could also do that at the project level or even inside of your template. So depending on how you build your cabinets, that could also be set up in your template so you're not making that change here. The internal options, add a center shelf. We'll go to our bottom component insert, change that from adjustable to division with adjustable shelves. Then also making a change in the top component insert. So you have the option to kind of customize that product here at this local level. And take some time, play around with the different inserts, see what each one does, how you can modify them different ways. In our next couple of videos, we're going to learn how we can get even deeper into some of those inserts and make some more customizations. But for right now, just getting them inside of your product, see how they're working, that's at least a good start. One thing you can do when you're working in some of these products and you have, like, for example, these component inserts in this tall cabinet, to take a closer look, we want to get rid of that door, not necessarily get rid of it, but just hide it. You can go into that status bar in the AutoCAD status bar and select hide objects. And selecting just the door, you can see what's going on inside of there with our division and adjustable shelves in the top. So that's one way to get a closer look at some of your products to see what's going on inside of them. And then, of course, just unhiding those objects again and going back into the drawing. And now we're going to continue filling up this one wall with some more base cabinets. And we'll go through this process pretty quickly since probably used to it by now, but just going with anchor left, setting a specific dimension away from the corner. We'll just go through the prompts, make sure we like what we see here. Now those values coming in from our project wizard, letting that cabinet know what it needs to be for the depth and the height. Now for the next two cabinets, we'll just place it next to this one, setting a quantity of 2. So we'll get them both drawn in at the same time. And this is just another way of drawing some cabinets. I'm going to just double click in the cell since we have a quantity of 2. We'll just see what space we have here, check that out, and divide it by 2, and that's our correct width. And now for the upper cabinets, filling this wall up with the products. Now for the next wall, doing the same thing, but for the right side, we're going to double click in there. Make sure we give ourselves a distance, so we're just stopping it before that tall cabinet. Like your quantity, we'll leave that at 3. That looks good at 27 inches each. Take a closer look at it, see what else we need to do to finish this up. We've got to get those corner fillers in there, our toe kicks and countertops, and then just double checking to make sure that all the prompts are set up correctly. Let's do that now with these cabinets, turning on the left finished end for our base. Now when you're modifying these products, it's better to be working in that 2D wireframe view. I might have mentioned it before, but in case I haven't, just switch your view back to a 2D wireframe. It helps with the redrawing process, doesn't take as long. And so we're going to stay here with the base cabinets, go over to our drawer stack and set a filler width. So instead of using our corner filler product, we can just set a right filler width on that cabinet and then the left filler width on the other one, and just plan on screwing that together on the job site. So not a separate product that we would need to send out to the shop for production. Now changing this cabinet to a right swing. Now because it's up against that tall cabinet, I do want to go back in there and check out our door reveal. So under the face options, we have our left and right door reveal here. Now these are controlled inside of our global variables, so that's why they're highlighted in red. But obviously if there's only one product that we're going to have to change, we don't want to do that at the project level and have all our reveals set up differently. So we're just going to do it here locally at this one, our right reveal to 1/8 of an inch. Once we've changed that, that's what I mean when you're stopping on formulas. We've set it to a hard value. Whatever we have now set in our global variables no longer applies to this one cabinet for its right reveal. And then I'm just going back into a conceptual view. It makes it a little bit easier for us to see what we're working on in these videos. But you don't have to do that. You can stay in a wireframe if you prefer. So one thing that I remembered we did not do during the previous video in our project setup was adjusting some of the material on the tall products. So what we're going to do now is go back into our material file and just double check to make sure that we have all our material correct for these cabinets. Right click and show groups. And so now we can see here we do not have our tall finished faces or our open carcass parts set up to our plywood. So because these are just going to be some shop grade cabinets, I want to make sure we have that material selected. Also because on our cut list, it's going to come out as on a different report. So that'll screw everybody up in the shop. We don't want to do that to them. Now, once we find that plywood in our material file, just assign that to our pointer group. Now the tall cabinet has its door and finished ends using that 3/4 plywood. Now we're moving on to the upper cabinets. And I recommend just to kind of keep a nice consistent pattern is going through the base cabinets first, getting everything changed that you want to there, and then moving to the uppers. Or if you're working on one wall, maybe do one wall and then the second wall. But try not to jump back and forth. It could get pretty confusing on what you've changed, what you haven't, and could possibly miss some things. So just keep that in mind. Now let's add this upper corner filler. Remember this one is in our master cabinet. Corner cabinet accessories. Selecting the 2 walls to place this product on. And remember, this is coming in at first as a base product, so it's looking to those settings for how it needs to be drawn. So we got to go into the advanced construction options, change that product type to upper. And now that data in the background is reworking itself and it's figuring out, okay, now I got to be an upper product. So I'm going to change my height, change my depth, and give us some of those upper product properties. Now we'll turn off our cleats. We don't need those on. Uncheck flush with face. And also go through the edge banding and uncheck some of those. We don't want edge banding turned on. And now, of course, we're just doing this here in the prompts. If you wanted to dig a little bit deeper into the product to make sure that those prompts are actually turning something off and we're not just checking boxes, you can first off stay in here, go to the material options tab, and it can give you a little preview on the material that you're using. But we're also going to go into our part properties as we get a little further into training and learn how we can verify some of these changes that we've made in the prompts are actually working inside of the product. And then just going through our prompts again into the construction options, making sure we have our top and bottom returns on. Now we have our top return. Check out our bottom return. Now in this situation, I didn't need to worry about turning on that finished bottom prompt. All the upper bottoms are using that plywood material, whether or not we have them called out as finished or not. So what it's doing, it's basically coming in from what we have set up in our material file to figure out what material needs to be used on that bottom. Now placing some countertops. So just selecting the correct countertop and then doing the same thing that we do at our cabinets. We're placing this one on the wall using the left anchor point of the countertop. And it's okay that we're selecting the top of this cabinet here. Toolbox knows that the countertop is going to be placed at a certain height above the floor. So a little bit different than where we've been doing it before. Selecting the top of this cabinet will work for this countertop. And it's just a matter of going through each one of these prompts and setting the correct widths and depths. Now we'll finish off this room with some more countertops. So placing it to the left side of this product. Again, just using that double click trick. And I find myself always doing that. You might be doing the same thing. It's a pretty useful feature. Now we are changing the depth because that's not something that we have set up in our project wizard. We didn't have anything called countertop depth. So this product is looking to a global variable. Now that's something that can also change as we get into learning more about customizing our library. You can actually take something that's in the globals and add it to your project wizard. So that'll come up a little bit later on in training, but just something you can do to help streamline that process. So this is one of the reasons why we work in a 2D wireframe. You want to zoom in real close to get that dimension. Make sure you got that corner. Okay, good. Now let's update that countertop depth again. And this is going to get kind of annoying. So we should probably go into our globals and get that correct depth in there. And that's what we're going to do when we set up our template. Now I want to point out the countertop height above the floor. So going back into the prompts, you see here we have this height above floor. So the reason this is coming above 36 is because of the actual material thickness inside of the material file on this countertop. We're going to talk a lot more about material thickness when it comes time to creating work orders and prepping these projects for production. But first, let's check out what material is being used for our countertops. Now, currently we don't have a pointer group set up with countertops, so we got to find that pointer name. Now, once we find the pointer name, you can see on the current material, we're using the 1.5 inch stone material. So instead of using stone for this project, we're just going to have some flat plywood countertops. We're not doing anything fancy. So just got to select the material from our material library, go to the plywood folder, and now assign that 3/4 plywood to our countertops. And once we redraw, obviously the thickness of the top changes. You can see that. And also going back into the prompts, you can see how our height above floor is correct based on the material thickness. So it's given us the correct height and our drawing is accurate. So let's finish up this project by getting the rest of the products drawn in. We have our toe kicks to go. These can be found again under their base cabinet accessories. Go into our toe kick base. Keeping it real simple here, just filling up this wall with products. We'll just leave ourselves a little bit of tolerance on the right side. Got 2 toe kicks coming in there. We can make sure that we're not exceeding our overall length of our material. So, you don't want to have a toe kick in here that's 120 inches or whatever the length of this wall is, right? Material's not that long, and so you got to make sure that you see your product widths coming in under that, most likely that 8-foot length. I mean, Toolbox will draw whatever you want. You can tell Toolbox to draw a 1,000-inch toe kick. It'll draw it. But, the time comes when you got to send this stuff out to the shop and you process that work order, you'll get an error saying, sorry, you don't have the material that's going to work for this toe kick. So make sure you keep that in mind as you're getting your products drawn in, that everything's going to work with the material that you're actually going to be using to build this stuff. Now for the next 2 toe kicks, it's going to make it a little bit easier if we hide some of these objects. So we're going to go back to our status bar, but before we do that, we want to go into our Microvellum palette and make sure that we have our select entire product checked. By doing this, we're going to be able to hide the entire product and not each individual part. So that'll speed up this process a little bit. And now let's just go through and select the objects that we want to hide. Now we can work with this toe kick a little bit easier too. We can go into the prompts, turn on the finished end. Now we have a nice clear view of the next wall, so we're going to add our toe kick, selecting our 2 points. That was at a slight angle there, so it didn't give us a true value of 22 inches, so let's just update that, 22. Give it a distance from the right side. So this one got real close. We're right at that 8-foot mark. But I'm not worried about that because what we're going to do is we got to turn on our right finished end anyway. So with the right finished end turned on, the overall length of this toe kick with its finished end is going to be 96 inches. So once we take that material thickness of our finished end, it's going to make that actual toe kick part 95 1/4. So that should fit within our material limit. So we should be good. There we have our solid kick skin on the front, finished end on the right. Unhide those objects. And that's how we set up a basic run of shop cabinets, using our material file to make sure we have all the material correct and some of the other project properties. Now get ready for the next video where we're going to take this project and start working with our Microvellum 2D drawing tools to put some 2D objects in our project and create some basic shop drawings. So that's another one in the books. I'm out, and I'll see you on the next one.